All right. What's going on, you guys? Back to our closing bell show, as usual. It is Wednesday, January 21st. We got some stuff to talk about. How you doing, Dark Silver? I love it. Right into the chat right away. If you're here watching, always go ahead and say hello. Let me know you're here. Um, we got some stuff to discuss today with the markets. First things first. I did not expect taco to taco this quick, but that is exactly what happened with the markets. All right, so we saw this drop because, Trump all of a sudden decided he was going to tariff the EU, 10% tariffs turning into 25% by February 1st, and then he tacoed the next day. And that's exactly what happened. If you kind of look at this channel that I've drawn, it bounced right off the bottom of that. It's starting to look like this is actually where we're going to be rebounding from. I do think we should probably make some new all-time highs, peak right above 700 maybe, possibly even maybe a little bit higher if you think about this trend line up here. Maybe up to like 710. I've seen some people project a little bit higher than that, but the volume that came in looks like this is ready for this recovery. We're not quite filled of this gap just yet, but I think we should do that within the next few days. We might come back down just a little bit and then go higher. So I wouldn't necessarily expect it to happen right away, but retest highs and then we go higher. I don't know if that's going to hold. It looks like there's a possibility we might make new all-time highs and then we'll come back down, back toward like 670, come back down to this range before another decision's made. There's no exact reason for us to hold those highs just yet. There's still quite a bit of turmoil and uncertainty, but at least this current taco trade has now kind of alleviated itself. All right, so we saw a quick drop, man, just a day after. I thought we were gonna see another day or two and come down lower before we go back up, but it looks like that taco trade is already ready to be over with. Inverse head and shoulders. If you're talking about this big one right here, yeah, I mean, if we come back up to the top, definitely see that happening. All right, you got left shoulder, head, this or this here, but we come back up, we're headed up higher. Not exactly the prettiest one, but oh, if you're saying 1 hour, yeah, the smallest one right here. Okay, I see that. Yeah. 1, 2. This is very small, but yeah, I could see that. Either way, buyers stepped in, so we're very likely. Number one, we should fill this gap. Number two, I think we come back up toward about 697 and we try for 700. I think we try for 700. Maybe not necessarily this week, but probably next week for sure. Okay. Another thing, we got some earnings coming up. All right, we saw a Netflix report. Netflix reported actually positive numbers, but there was it on the Netflix had a double beat. However, what was the news? I think first there's something about their guidance. Yeah, they lowered a little bit of their guidance. They also had to figure out their financing for the acquisition, which was also something that was taken kind of poorly. But I will say though, in terms of Netflix and the chart, I had this drawn, this level right here, the 82.56. I had that level drawn from quite a while ago. Right here. You see bounce, bounce, bounce. It bounced exactly where we expected it to. Volume for today is pretty decent. I think we could still potentially see a little bit lower, but not much. This is I would say this is a great place to start and start a position and then be ready to average down a little if it does come down toward like 76, but I don't see it necessarily breaking below 80 and staying there for too long. But Netflix should start to see some sort of recovery. Numbers weren't too bad. I mean, they beat earnings. It wasn't as big of a beat as you might have wanted. But yeah, there's some analysts that, you know, lowered their guidance for it. But the company's making a lot of money, right? Making a lot of money. Yeah. It's one of those ones where I don't think you'll be mad 5 years from now that you bought at these levels for Netflix. In other news, we saw our VIX come right back down. Our VIX came right back down after that giant taco pop back into this channel that we have. We could probably draw it like that. So I think we come back down and see some new all-time highs very soon. Bitcoin didn't quite recover as much as people probably would have liked. We've saw it sell off the last few days. We see a bounce right here at about 87, back up to 89, but not quite back at 90. Actually, you know, I keep on showing you guys this chart where if you take a look over at the cycle for Bitcoin, back in 2021, 2022, we have this, you know, not exactly a double top, but we did see a high, then higher highs, and then we came down and broke down to, from there, 77% down, okay? And so my prediction right now is we're in this range and might see 100K, but it's looking like if that doesn't hold, we see some more turmoil for Bitcoin. We could be coming back down toward about 80K and then maybe back down toward about 68, 69. That's where my projections are for this. Cycle looks very, very similar. You know, again, these are just my analysis. I know there's some Bitcoin bulls that think this is where we're headed up. There's a couple of charts I've seen that show that as well. But this is how, you know, this is what I think. I think we're maybe when we're pushed back up toward 100K. If not, I think we're breaking down very soon. Yes, that Clarity Act. And also remember, it was Coinbase's CEO also decided to pull his support for that, the bill for crypto. And he wrote something about how it didn't quite do exactly what they wanted with it. Coinbase is at this level here on the weekly where it should start to see a move back up fairly soon. So, you know, that's where it would align with my Bitcoin chart of maybe we see 100K one more time and then we come back down from it. But we are severely oversold on Coinbase here. And every time we've seen this indicator pop up here, you know, it starts to recover and starts to bounce up pretty hard. Today, let's see, Wednesday, we already saw, let's see, Johnson & Johnson, Ally Bank. Today after hours, I don't know if any of you guys care about any of these. I think Thursday we got Intel. We saw a big pop for Intel already. We'll discuss that. GE, Abbott. We got Alaska Airlines coming up, Alcoa. So, I mean, we're headed right into the heart of earnings season. I think the big name today was Intel. Intel finally broke above recent highs, broke above previous all-time highs back in end of 2023. I think we could very possibly start to see us head toward that 60 range if it continues. My expectations for the earnings is that they should report some pretty good numbers. How much of that's priced into here is the big question. All right. So we saw a gap up. Earnings is coming up tomorrow after close. We are fairly high up right now in terms of the daily and even on the weekly. So, you know, we should see what Polymarket has to say. Polymarket's been pretty good in terms of predicting earnings. Polymarket did have like an 85% chance that Netflix was going to beat earnings, which they did, unfortunately, and we all understand. Just a double beat on earnings doesn't necessarily correlate with price action. Right. Oh, sorry. There we go. Thanks for that. What I was just showing you guys here was that we have these all-time highs back in 2021 for Intel. It looks like we could be headed toward that. I wouldn't be surprised to see us come back down and chop around, retest 51 or so before we go up higher. The thing with it is that on the daily and on the weekly, we are pretty overstretched to the upside right now. So this might just be a pre-earnings run up. Everybody's expecting this to be a beat. That's how I look at it. All right, let's go peek over at STAX and see what we might notice here. Intel flow, pretty decent today. Quite a few buys, obviously, especially with this type of push up. They're now aiming for 75. Right, there's got a sweep here for 75 for April. We also got $9 million that they spent on the $65 calls for March. So I'm expecting these earnings to be a blowout and for price to continue to the upside. But flow today pretty strong to the upside for Intel. We saw some of it sell off, but puts are being sold off, so quite bullish for Intel. But again today, Intel already saw an 11% move to the upside. All right, so I'd be a little cautious with it. I still think we could see a continuation with it. But again, like I said, there's some of my indicators that are showing that we are pretty stretched to the upside so far. Let's peek over at Netflix. Are they buying or are they selling? So calls got sold off for Netflix. We saw, you know, two bounces, bounced right at the morning, came back down, bounced again from there. Puts and calls both kind of being sold off. But in terms of today, right, there still are quite a few puts being taken out, some unusual ones for August. So there's still an expectation that we could still see a little bit more downside for it. They're aiming for $73 on the downside, 80K, a whole bunch of sweeps for that. And they've got a little bit of time for August. So that's where I would say the risk for Netflix is. Netflix STAX AI whale. So yeah, we do have a Netflix call for this. I gotta pull up my... Let me check real quick. So they bought for August 110. Let's look at that real quick on my... I'm just gonna pull it up on the side. Netflix. August. Yeah, open interest for Netflix. The 110 strike for August is at 104,000. So yeah, this whale is very likely still in on it. They've got some time, so yeah, they're still in on it. Our flow scanner for today, real quick as an update too. Our flow scanner now, it used to show you what was going on for the full week. You can still go in here and click on the range and see what shows up for the entire week. It'll give you the aggregate, everything added together, but we've made it where the default is just the day of. So for today, we saw IWM, right, 66 million calls to 37 million puts. They're still buying gold, GLD and silver. SPY saw some bearishness for today in terms of puts being taken out. Same with QQQ, fairly even for QQQ. Intel, definitely one of the more bullish ones for our flow scanner today. NVIDIA, AMD, BE, we'll take a peek over at that. Meta, ALB, MU. These ones are fairly small down here. Palantir looking a little bit bearish too there. But BE, look at this today. Big money, sweeps, pretty high IV. One of them's in the money. These aren't exactly the biggest expected moves. They're not completely, unusual. They're buying basically at the money. 145 and higher in March, right? So BE, Bloom Energy. I will say energy is going to be one of the winners for the year, just because as of right now, we don't have enough energy to power the data centers that we continue to build. So they're just saying, if I were to give you right, I mean, hard to say what their target is. They just say it's going to be higher by March. So interesting to see, but it's making new all-time highs. It's breaking above. I would not be surprised to see this play out. How high is the question? Another thing too, look at this here on STAX. We got a few puts sprinkled in here, but for the new year, we got 2 puts, maybe right under 100 mil, or sorry, right under a mil. Sorry, 100K right there, 875K. So that's right about a mil of puts for under 90, but it's already shot up. It's got like 50% from the beginning of the year, and now they're aiming for 160, 180 for energy. So I'd keep an eye on this one. I think BE is probably poised to go higher. It might be a little bit of a slow grind, but over the course of the next 2 months is what our time frame's looking at for this. One thing I've been doing recently is I'll go in here and I'll filter for just the sweeps and see what's unusual, what's being bought. So obviously these Netflix ones, we got our Intel, I already talked about, $75. FNKO, this is Funko Pop, right? FNKO. Yeah, Funko Pop. $5 calls for 2027. And this chart looks kind of interesting. Right? It's at all-time lows. The $3, almost $4 stock. So if I go on the giant time frame for Right. Oversold, oversold, oversold. Moves up pretty strong from those positions. I think that's what they're probably looking at. Volume is kind of getting a little bit better here. I mean, they are buying at the lows of this. So, earnings, March. Board changes 7 days ago. So that should be, generally tends to be a good thing for these kind of companies, making some sort of change at the head of the, head of the ship. So Funko back up above $5. I mean, they've got some time on that one. This could be something where you're willing to give yourself that time above $5 right there. I think the risk to the downside is minimal on this. If it comes back to $2 to $3, it looks like it's getting bought up. Shouldn't go back down below 307. It's an interesting one to look at. By the way, you guys, let me know if there's anything you want me to look over. This. What can I think of? COF. That's what it is. Capital One. So the one thing that spooked a lot of credit cards was the whole thing with Trump saying he's going to put a 10% cap on credit cards. That's what caused it to come down. I would expect earnings to be fairly good for a lot of these, especially with the holidays and people still spending. So, my expectation is earnings probably should be fairly good. Does it continue to go up? I mean, there is this gap above it. Let's take a look at STAX to see if there's anything that sticks out, though. I don't think we see too much usually, yeah. Above 240 by March. Got some, yeah, we got some. Oh, these are blocks. This sweep here, though, is 250. Not that much premium. Right, this one only $37,000 in calls, but 300,000 in puts sold. Not enough to really go off of. But my hunch is that numbers should be good. But just like we saw with Netflix, just because the numbers are good doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna continue going higher. Let's peek over at those. So you want a Tesla? There we go. Tesla's got a lot of puts taken out today. That just spiked. Some big 8 million in puts taken out here, but these are super expensive. 8K per contract. See a mix here. The big money tends to be leaning toward, right? If I look at big money here, it tends to be leaning toward puts, at least more recently. earnings coming up next week. Generally, I would say with earnings, we probably see some sort of little bit of a run up usually. No, not necessarily. Well, the run up might have already happened. But I mean, if you're bullish on Tesla, I think this is one of the better situations to be in. You've got had it sell off right here. You know, if they do decently well, it should break out to the upside. We are in this channel. Let's adjust this channel a little bit. We saw a decent bounce today. This should be, if this holds, this should be some bullish divergence on this end. Lower lows here, but higher lows on my indicator. We already saw the first bounce. It filled that gap. So now what you're looking for is a breakout of this downtrend, retest and higher. Yeah, I would definitely lean more toward a pre-earnings run up. So for the next, this next week before they report, I would expect it to go higher. Their PE ratio is pretty damn high though. 292. Like, I keep showing you guys, same with Intel. Look at Intel right now. 4,581. It continues to go higher. I think like last week it was at 3,000, almost 4. Now it's at 4.5. Crazy. So, I mean, Intel needs to beat their earnings. Palantir, I was also showing you guys. I thought Palantir was coming down. It already has. It's come back down. I think we see a little bit lower maybe. But that's played itself out. Palantir looking like its distribution. 394 for Palantir PE ratio. Alright, Lyft. I like where Lyft's at. This should start to recover soon. These small candles showing that price doesn't want anything. Price isn't fluctuating through large ranges. And volume's fairly low, right? Which shows that people aren't necessarily letting their shares go at this range. We've got some oversold territory too. Oversold territory. So this is the range where we start to see the recoveries come from. I think Lyft is bound for a recovery to the upside. It could be this earnings coming up in 2.5, 3 weeks. I think their results, I think their numbers should be pretty strong. Regional banks, yeah, had a little bit of a pop, broke up to the upside. This is probably what you want to see here. High, broke up, retest a little bit. Testing this all-time high right here. Or is it all-time highs? Yeah, all-time highs. KRE looks like it wants higher. We could still come back down one more time, so just be careful. I'd say worst case for it, we come and retest this trend. I have a bearish thesis for Nvidia right now, by the way. I think it's going through distribution. I think it should come back down toward 165. I think it'll get snatched up pretty quick on these lower ends. But there are some signs of weakness. Yeah, man, remember when it was at 200 and above? Having trouble getting back up there. Microsoft's still looking kind of weak, so Think of, right? We had, compared to SPY today, SPY had this giant reversal after Trump announced that he's not going to tariff the EU. But look at Microsoft going lower, right? Well, that's just showing weakness compared to the rest of the market. Higher volume too. I do think we're coming down a little bit lower for Microsoft. I had drawn this gap that we have is where I would target 420 or so. Big distribution right here. Amazon's looking like it's ready for a reversal here. This lower end of this channel, this is where it should bounce. Apple, somewhat doing what I said, came down, broke out of that bear flag. I think we see a little reversal here. If it doesn't hold, we're definitely headed down to the next. Now Google bounced pretty hard. I said I think we chop around up in this range for a little bit. A lot of money's been rotating out of Mag 7, so I just want you to be careful with those. And that's why we also started to see IWM do a lot better. Right, IWM right now making new all-time highs, 267. Broke out of this. I said there is a possibility we'll see a ABC retracement pattern before we go higher. What reported today? No, we'll go through these one by one, but AMI, Kinder Morgan moving up. Bank of California. Nothing so far. All these regional banks reporting today. I've never pulled up these charts before. BANR, Banner Corporation. BACI International. Pinnacle dropped. Nothing on that one so far. Nothing on this guy either. It looks like Kinder Morgan's the only one that moved so far. Everything else, I don't think they've reported yet. All right, Procter and Gamble reports tomorrow. They're a strong company overall. Oh, Bitcoin just broke back up over 90K. All right. So some big winners so far from the most recent STAX AI prints. Lockheed Martin here up 130%. They got in just about 2 weeks ago. A solid move already. Went from 15.40 up to 35.50. Lockheed Martin's still going higher. Saw FCX got in at 240, up at 520 now, over 120%. This TTMI, you guys all saw this pop. Went from $4.10 up to $17.50, up 385% on those ones. And then this Intel one, today's high, I think, see if this updated at all yet, but up 128%, right? That 9 mil that they spent, they've made 12 mil off of it so far. Entry price $3.60 at the beginning of December last year. So just over a month and a half, over 128% on that. We're still working on fine-tuning our STAX tracker so that when you guys do finally get it, all the features are in there. Yeah, the STAX tracker should be refreshing and double checking the values of those just about every single day. We still have to import some of our old data. Right now it just shows 61 of these being active, but like if you guys have seen since I started to show you guys this, the last month average return at first was around like 20%. Now it's up to 54%. Okay. So really, like, you can see in real time from, as the newest prints come in, these are going to help you track and see what's exactly going on with STAX AI, what the returns happen to be. And what I love about it as well is you can go and you can actually see, like, for example, this one, XENE, it's down. And you'll also be able to see the price performance and the live data of it if it happens to work here. Come on. Yeah, we're working out all the little things. We just put this together at the end of last year. So we're going through our beta testing. I don't know why that one's not working. So like, yeah, here at Tesla. Yeah, still some little things that need to get worked out in it. And look at this one. SLV, silver. We all know it continues to make new all-time highs. They're 1 mil, 1.2 mil, up 1,041%. Oh, let's look at that Netflix one. Yeah, Netflix, this one's down. Entry at 465. As of today, the price was at 292, so it's down a little bit. But yeah, current OI is still at 104, and they grabbed 22,000 of them. So they are down. The highs of this hit 9.7%, but obviously as of right now, they're down about, what, 30 to 40% of it. So the total return, it shows 9% positive is the highs of it, right? We always track to see from where they entered. The highs over here on the 13th were a plus 9%. We're going to add another indicator that shows what the current and what the lows are. Does that make sense? Our tracker shows what the highs were relative to their entry. We will have another data set that shows you what the current trading price is too. Because like I'll give you, let me see if I find you an example. Because there are going to be some times where it goes up. Let's say it goes up 100 something percent, and then it sells off afterwards. Okay, so here's a good example. Oracle, right? Oracle had a nice pop here, and it went up 61%. And then we all saw Oracle dropped very heavily. Okay, so now this is down 99% if you kept holding. But you know what kind of risk management are you doing with your trade if you let it go up 61% and then you let it drop 99% afterwards? That's just straight up gambling there, right? And like there's no guarantee it'll continue to go up. So you got to make sure you still manage your trade, set your stop losses, take profits at certain levels. There's never a guarantee that you're going to get 100%. While there are a lot of these that do very, very well, you know, I think it'd be a shame if you let something go up 60% and then just held and held and held and just let it drop all the way back down, right? So it's still up to you to manage that trade. And in this situation, for example, you can see they got 1,500 in volume for this trade. Current OI is at 500, so they've gotten out of this trade already. Okay. So you know, like my question would be, how am I supposed to track this if I don't show the highs and the lows, right? The next step we're trying to do, and why we developed this was because when I first started doing the back testing, you know, I would go through and find these out manually. I would go through each and every single chart, check the volume, check the highs, check the lows. But I didn't record everything, and it'd be way too much for me to go back and double check all of that now. So we put this together. Yeah, total return is the highest return. We will add metrics such as current return, or what I want to add in here is lows, right? Drawdown and then drawdown to high. That's another one that we want to be able to see is, let's say, for example, we have a drawdown and then we have that to the high, being able to measure here to the high what that return also happens to be. Because we've also seen you know, some of these are going to have a 30-40% drawdown before they pop. You know, some of these entries aren't always going to be the most prime efficient entries, but when they do move up, they're going to move up hard, right? And so this 36% is from the entry to this high. But if you took and saw this drop to what, 376 and then have that go up to the high, right? That's a bigger percentage. That's probably closer to 60%. on that. All right. So, we have an idea of some strong, um, some good strategies to use STAX AI with. We're still trying to put together good visual data to allow you guys to understand how to use it best for yourself. And that's what the STAX tracker is going to help you guys do. We're still putting it together. Be patient with us, working out some last final kinks before we can. We're trying to make sure and also import all of our data. There's probably like 300 contracts that have either expired or from the previous years that we still got to import into here. We're still trying to align all that so that it works and we can, pull that data from those previous contracts that have expired. But so far, it's ready, proven to be a tool that I know a lot of you guys want to use, that you guys want to see. So we're working hard to get this ready and set up for you guys. So just be patient. I expect probably in the next month or so that we should start to be able to roll it out to you guys. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. We'll be back on here every Wednesday, like we always are. If you guys are interested in a STAX membership to be able to use these tools, to be able to join us in on our Discord and our chats in there, you guys can go ahead. The link is in the description box below. You can use eRoo Love STAX for a 20% off that membership. If you have any questions, if there's any sort of concerns, you can always go ahead, email us over at help@investorcentralclub.com. We'll be happy to answer those questions for you and get you guys going. With that being said, thanks for joining us every single week here for our Closing Bell show. Happy to do this for you guys. If you have any suggestions or things that you want to see, don't hesitate, let us know, and we'll get that done for you. But again, see you guys I'll be in the Discord tomorrow doing our usual live streams. Otherwise, I'll see you guys, those just in the public space, I'll see you guys on Wednesday next week for our usual live show. Have a good rest of your Wednesday, and happy trading. Talk to you guys soon.